Well, it's official. NC State has announced that Will Wade will be the next men's head basketball coach, and I thought it would be useful, if only for posterity, to discuss how Will Wade ended up in Raleigh and some of the factors that were really important along the way. The first point is timing. This is something that seems that has never really lined up for NC State until now. They've never really found themselves in a situation where their primary coaching candidate became available at the same time that their job opened up until now. Now, as much as it hurt, it ended up helping the Wolfpack that they didn't make the ACC tournament because it allowed them to have a clear cut avenue to cut ties with the previous coach, Kevin Keatts, and it gave them a head start on conversations with Will Wade before anybody else could. Now, obviously, they still had to work out all the details, and I'm glad that they did. Athletic director Boo Corrigan identified two top candidates, Ryan Odom and Will Wade, along with other backup choices like former NC State guard and now Tennessee associate head coach Justin Gainey. There were a handful of other names, but it's unlikely those were real options, and probably many of them were their agents floating their clients' names just to make it publicly known that those guys were looking to make a move. Indications came up pretty quickly that VCU head coach Ryan Odom would be more interested in staying inside the state of Virginia and seemed headed towards the UVA job. The fan response was overwhelming in its desire for Will Wade to be the primary candidate. There has been an unprecedented amount of support for him coming to Raleigh, and it seems as though the big money donors were fully behind the idea of Wade. And ultimately, those are the ones that matter the most, if we're being honest. Fans mobilized online with grassroots campaigns, and whether or not the athletic department ended up actually hearing them or not, we'll never know. But it did become evident that Will Wade was the primary target. Reports started to come out that Will Wade was equally interested in the opening, but needed to be convinced the resources would be in place to make it happen. But we'll talk about that in a future video. So everything fell NC State's way timing-wise. But what were some of the factors that needed to go NC State's way? We'll cover those in part 2 and beyond. Follow along by liking and subscribing for more.